I saved every single person on that ship, and 2 weeks later, they told me I wasn't fit to serve. How does that even happen? I remember sitting there, staring at the report in my hands, thinking, this has to be a mistake. Before we continue, please hit the like button, subscribe to the channel, and turn on the notification bell for updates. My name is Lieutenant Commander Rachel Torres. I'm 32 U.S. Navy. I've spent my entire career training for moments where everything goes wrong, because when it does, people don't get second chances. And on that day, everything went wrong. But that's not what this is about. This is about what came after. The room was quiet. Too quiet. Across from me sat Commander Elise Grant, the review officer. Neutral expression. No emotion. Just procedure. She slid the document across the table like it was routine. Take your time, Lieutenant Commander. So I did. At first, it felt normal. Standard language, timeline summaries, operational notes. Then I kept reading, and something didn't match. The report described a crisis on board, accurately. System failure, escalating risk, crew in danger. But then, it credited Captain Daniel Brooks for decisive leadership under pressure. I blinked. Once. Twice. Went back. Read it again. Because that wasn't what happened. Not even close. My eyes moved further down the page. There I was. Mentioned briefly. Not for leadership. Not for action. But for this. Displayed signs of emotional compromise under high-stress conditions. Judgment may have been impaired. I actually leaned back in my chair. Not angry. Not yet. Just stunned. You ever read something so wrong, you don't even know where to start? Because I remembered everything. The alarms, the heat, the moment where waiting even 10 seconds longer would have cost lives. And I remembered who gave the orders. It wasn't Brooks. So why did the report say it was? Why was I the one being questioned? Then I reached the final page. Signature block. Clean, official, final. Captain Daniel Brooks. Approved, submitted, filed. I looked up slowly. This isn't what happened, I said. Commander Grant didn't react, just watched me, carefully. And that's when it hit me. This wasn't a mistake. This was a version of the story someone wanted on record. And if that version stuck, my career was over, just like that. But the real question was, why would someone rewrite the truth unless they had something to hide? The worst part? I remember exactly what happened. Not pieces, not fragments, every second. It started like any other operation, controlled, routine, predictable, until it wasn't. We were running systems checks under rough conditions, nothing unusual. The kind of environment you train for, the kind you're supposed to be ready for. Then the first alarm hit. Sharp, sudden. Then another, and another. Within seconds, the entire control room shifted from calm to chaos. Lights flashing, systems glitching, voices overlapping. You ever watch a situation spiral before anyone fully understands what's wrong? That's exactly what it felt like. I looked at the main display, system failure cascading faster than it should have. Something deeper was wrong, not surface level. And right next to me, Captain Brooks, standing still, watching, processing, too long. Captain, we need to isolate the system now, I said. No response. Not immediately. He was thinking, calculating, but we didn't have time for that. Because while he was deciding, the situation was escalating. Crew members were already reporting heat spikes in lower sections, electrical instability. One wrong move, and we were looking at something far worse. Captain? I pushed again. He finally responded, but it wasn't decisive. Let's confirm before we act. Confirm. That word stuck with me, because confirmation takes time. And time? We were running out of it. I scanned the data again. Faster this time. Patterns. Failures. It clicked. If we didn't act immediately, containment would fail. And if containment failed, we wouldn't be talking about damaged systems. We'd be talking about lives. I made a choice right then. Not comfortable, not safe, necessary. We isolate now, I said firmly, already moving. That's when Brooks stepped in. Lieutenant Commander, hold. But I didn't stop, because hesitation was the real risk. I started issuing commands, clear, direct, and something important happened in that moment. The crew listened, not to him, to me. That's when I knew we had crossed a line, not just operationally, but personally, because in that moment, I wasn't just assisting anymore, I was leading. And Brooks? He saw it, felt it, didn't say anything, but the shift was there, clear as the alarm still ringing around us. Then everything escalated again, faster than before. Critical threshold approaching. One decision left, one call I technically wasn't authorized to make. I remember my hand hovering over the control panel, just for a second, because I knew, if I did this, there was no taking it back. And if I didn't, we might not make it out. So I made the call, and in that moment, everything changed, because if I was wrong, none of us would be here right now. What would you do if following the rules meant people might die? That's the question I didn't have time to answer, because I had already made my choice. My hand came down on the control panel, hard. Initiating full isolation protocol, I called out. The room froze for half a second, then everything moved at once. Systems began shutting down, fast, aggressive, exactly how they were designed to in worst-case scenarios. And that's when Brooks snapped. Torres, that's an unauthorized command. His voice cut through the noise, sharp and controlled, but underneath it, there was something else. Panic. Because he knew what I knew. If I was right, we had seconds. If I was wrong, I had just crippled critical systems without clearance. No middle ground. The ship lurched slightly as containment protocols kicked in. Crew members grabbed onto consoles. Someone cursed under their breath. Then, silence. Not complete silence, but the kind where the alarms stop, where the chaos pauses, and everyone waits to see what happens next. I stared at the diagnostic screen. Heart steady, mind clear. Waiting. 1 second. 2. 3. Then the system stabilized. Just like that. The cascading failure stopped. Heat levels dropped. Power fluctuations leveled out. We were still operational. And more importantly, everyone was alive. A breath I didn't realize I was holding finally left my chest. Around me, the crew started moving again. Quieter now. Controlled. Someone said it under their breath. She stopped it. But I didn't react, because I already knew what came next. I turned slowly toward Brooks. He wasn't looking at the system. He was looking at me. And the expression on his face? Wasn't relief. It wasn't gratitude. It wasn't even anger. It was something colder, something calculating, like he was already rewriting what just happened. You overstepped, he said quietly. No acknowledgement of the outcome, no mention of the lives we just saved. Just that, overstepped. I held his gaze, didn't argue, didn't defend, because in that moment, I understood something important. This wasn't over. Not even close, because saving the crew was only the first battle. What came after? That was going to be worse, and I didn't realize how bad it would get until 2 weeks later when I saw the official report and realized someone hadn't just ignored the truth, they had replaced it. When I opened the official report, my stomach dropped like a weight. The headline hit me first. Lieutenant Samantha Wills marked unfit for duty due to procedural violations. Unfit. Not a word about the lives saved. Not a single line about the crew I had pulled from near certain death. And the cherry on top? Someone else, someone who hadn't even been on deck during the crisis, was credited for stopping the disaster. I couldn't breathe. The room spun for a second. Then I sat down, trying to keep it together. I went through the report line by line. Every action I had taken, every command I had issued, was either minimized, ignored, or rewritten. It wasn't just inaccurate, it was malicious, and I knew exactly who would benefit. Brooks, the same man who had glared at me during the crisis, like he was already plotting how to claim my success. I clenched my fists. Anger, disbelief, frustration, mixed with a sharp edge of clarity. I had a choice: fight it openly and risk more retaliation, or find a way to reveal the truth on my terms. I chose the latter. That night, I reviewed security logs, communications, and witness statements. Every detail, every piece of evidence, carefully cataloged. By the next morning, I had a plan. But before I could act, Brooks tried to corner me in the corridor. "Wills, we need to talk about your future here," he said, voice smooth but threatening. I looked him straight in the eye. "I already know my future," I said calmly. The air between us was electric. The stakes weren't just my career anymore, they were my integrity, my reputation, and the truth. And just as I was preparing to escalate, I got a call from Rear Admiral Harlan, an unexpected ally who had been monitoring the crisis from above. "Lieutenant Wills, meet me at my office. Bring everything you have," he said. I felt a flicker of hope. Finally, someone willing to see what actually happened. But I also knew the boardroom could become a battlefield. Because while the evidence was on my side, I wasn't the only one with influence. Brooks had allies, powerful ones, and they were ready to bury me. I took a deep breath, checked my uniform, straightened my posture. It was time. Time to prove that saving the crew wasn't just luck, that the truth couldn't be silenced, and that they had completely underestimated Lieutenant Samantha Wills. The boardroom was tense. Every eye was on me as I laid out the evidence I had compiled: timestamps, witness statements, and communication logs from the night of the crisis. "This report is inaccurate," I began, my voice steady but commanding. "I was in command. I issued every critical order that saved the crew. And yet, someone else is receiving credit, and I am marked unfit for duty." A murmur ran through the room. Brooks shifted in his seat, eyes narrowing, but he didn't interrupt. I continued, presenting each piece of evidence methodically, showing how the decisions I made under pressure were the difference between life and death. Rear Admiral Harlan, sitting at the head of the table, leaned forward, studying the documents closely. His expression softened slightly, a quiet acknowledgement of what I already knew in my heart. The truth couldn't be hidden. Finally, I finished, letting silence fill the room. "Lieutenant Wills," the Admiral said, "your actions were exemplary. This report will be corrected immediately. You are reinstated, and your bravery officially recognized. The crew's safety was your command." Relief washed over me like a tide. Years of dedication, integrity, and courage had not been erased by bureaucratic manipulation. I looked at Brooks. The smug arrogance had left his face, replaced with the realization that he had underestimated me. I had stayed composed, let him believe he could manipulate the story, but the truth had a way of surfacing. The consequences were swift. The official records were updated, the credit for the rescue was reassigned, and Brooks faced a formal reprimand. My reputation was restored, and my position in the Navy strengthened. Emotionally, I felt a mixture of vindication and release. For the first time since that night, I could breathe freely, knowing that what I had done mattered and would be recognized. Personally, the experience changed me. I had learned that patience, meticulous preparation, and courage under pressure could overturn even the most unfair situations. I had proven to myself and everyone else that integrity and action matter more than appearances. As I walked out of the boardroom, I passed the crew members I had saved. Their quiet nods and small smiles reminded me why I had chosen this path. Leadership, bravery, and truth were not just words, they were actions. I straightened my uniform, squared my shoulders, and walked with renewed purpose. Lieutenant Samantha Wills was not just a survivor of bureaucracy, she was a protector, a leader, and a Navy officer whose actions could never be denied. The storm had passed, the truth had emerged, and I had emerged stronger, unbroken, and ready for whatever came next.